Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Record Breakers. I'm PETEY RAVE, your man with no plan. Here with me, as always, my crew. We've got Patrick.
Hola.
We've got Drew.
Hey.
And we've got Brett.
I hit like Maze, and I run like Haze.
Yeah, something like that.
But I hit like shit.
But you hit like shit.
We covered that.
You run like Haze, but you hit like shit. But of course, we're here with Record Breakers, talk about music, and we share music with each other each and every week. And every once in a while, usually in between the reset of the rotation, we have a guest. And of course, we have a guest this week with us. We have none other than, once again, returning David Jeffrey Majors, a.k.a. DJM. How you doing, DJM?
Hi, Record Breakers! It's me, DJM! Let's talk music, guys!
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Scary.
Turn down.
We just walked into a Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon.
This
is gonna be way past cool!
No.
Somebody give that man a chili dog.
No. Not well. I don't really give a shit about Sonic the Hedgehog, but that's fine.
But yes.
Thanks for having me on, though. We're not talking about a Sonic the Hedgehog related thing of any kind. But thank you for having me on anyway.
Yes. We're here to talk about music, and he brought forth to us another album, another fascinating album. Deej, what do you got for us? What did you bring to the table?
This time around, for the Record Breakers, on previous episodes that I've appeared on, I've tried to think of something that I thought each member would be interested in the most. So far, I would say I'm 50-50. I think I hit the mark with one of them when I introduced Tesseract. The last one before that was Dream Theater. Didn't work out so well with the person I thought that might like it. Tesseract seemed to work out okay, and now, this time, it is Drew's first turn, and the album that I brought is the brand new album from one of my favorite bands in the last couple of years, New Jersey's Thank You Scientist, and their brand new album, Stranger Heads Prevail.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, I'll start with you. Patrick, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I went in blind, other than knowing DJM loves him some prog rock, and we have a lot of crossover in terms of the music we enjoy. So I figured there was a good chance this might be something up my alley. Little did I know how up my alley it was.
Mm-hmm. Up your alley and around the corner. I don't know.
That's
Brett,
racist.
Brett, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I know that Deej is a fan of progress, and progress is what he brings us in rock form. Other than that, I kind of had an assumption because I've only known him to listen to one kind of music ever. But that's, I guess one wide swath of a genre. But yes, I expected it to fit into that little empty pie slot. And I was correct.
Yes, it is one genre that is like a lasagna of various subgenres.
Yeah. Yes. Drew. I guess
Speaking
the intended
of
target. Speaking of lasagna.
Y'all are some racist motherfuckers over here. Lasagna. Let's go to the guy with the mustache.
Seemingly the intended target of this album. Drew, what were your expectations coming in?
All I knew of this album was what I know of what he has brought to us before, and that I apparently had to listen to this band, and he was very excited to bring them specifically because he was aiming his sights right at me. I will get into what I said on Twitter last night after a full 24 hours of nothing but this band a little later on.
Mm-hmm. Deej, how will you describe this album musically? What would be the themes you would say that make this up?
I would say, and I want to throw something around the horn a little bit later. Yes, thank you, scientists do technically fall under that umbrella known as progressive rock, but they bring some modern proclivities with more of a modern rock vibe. Of course, they are signed to Evil Inc. Records, the record label run by Claudio Sanchez of Coheed and Cambria. Yes, the influence is there. It's pretty well known. And they also have a good amount of jazz and horn influence, and there's some orchestral stuff, and there is even a touch of that heavy Dream Theater influenced instrumentation. They are a healthy mix of a bunch of things. Now, I want to throw something around. We'll start with Swagger. We'll start with Patrick. I've brought a few different albums on Record Breakers before. I've brought 3 different things on. And I would say that generally they are seen as under the same genre umbrella, but you guys are able to see kind of and Patrick, I'll start with you, the differences between the 3. Like, they all fall under a genre, but they're not really the same. You follow me?
It's like they're cousins. They're not brother and sister. They're not from the same genes, but they share genes. So of the 3, so Dream Theater, I think, they're the band that I think defined modern prog metal in a lot of ways. Like the current and definitely everything from kind of the late 80s on sounds like bands that sound just a little bit like Dream Theater. Sometimes a lot like Dream Theater. And then Tesseract was way more death metal influenced, and specifically influenced, I think, by Meshuggah and sort of the super detuned gent sound from there. But they're, again, they're cousins. They're related. They, maybe have the same eyes, but they're not the same thing. This, I think, leans more heavily towards, if you look up the bands that influence this band, Dream Theater is on that short list, whether it's directly or indirectly, because they definitely have touches of that, but they also sound like other things outside of prog rock and within other corners of prog rock that aren't, again, it's 6 degrees of prog rock, and these bands are all about 2 or 3 degrees away from each other in different directions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting question. But let's talk about the themes elements of the album. You can kind of go roll into that, Patrick. What would be the themes elements of this album?
This was one of those where I was 30 seconds into the first song, and I'm like, okay, this is actually not unfamiliar to me. This sounds very much like a band called the Deer Hunter, which is not the same as Deer Hunter, but Deer Hunter, DEAR Hunter. They're cool. I'm surprised I haven't brought them on the show yet. In terms of being sort of modern prog rock, but with strings and horns and other instrumentation you don't typically hear. One of my rubs on Dream Theater is always that I am not a big James LeBray fan of his vocals. I understand he sings very well, but he sings too pretty. And on this record, you get pretty vocals, and I think this is where the Coheed comparison gets easily made, is Claudio Sanchez doesn't have this level of skill singing, but he has this power. And this guy whose name I probably should have looked up before this, lead singer of
Salvatore Morano.
Okay, Salvatore Morano has skill singing and like that power and edge that you don't always get in the pretty singing prog rock genre. So this kind of hit me right in like the wow, where has this been all of my life category, because it's been a really long time since I've found new prog rock that I really, really love. Like I've listened to stuff and it's cool, but this hit me right in the right place. Hit me right in the good place.
Mm-hmm. Brett.
What she said.
Hit me in the good place. Brett, what would be the themes elements that come up to mind?
Well, obviously we're dealing with a prog rock band of some variety. I mean, this ain't Yes, this ain't King Crimson, but this is modern. It's prog rock of the modern
of the now.
side. Yeah, of the here and the now. But really, what stands out in this is it's your standard mess of musicians. But you have someone playing strings, you have someone playing sax, you have somebody playing trumpet. That's that added on to the staples of modern prog rock music. That's the ultra technical guitars, the drums that are lapping themselves, the vocal affectation, which it's kind of like how surfer dudes kind of talk alike, even when they kind of didn't really. It makes really no sense. I'll use surfer dudes as the example, but speech affectation in genres of music. Like, let's go back to old style prog rock. The get kicked in the nuts, high pitched singing voice was something that floated around. There's a certain bassist in Canada that kind of did that too. You get a very, very different sound out of having the strings, the trumpet and the sax, the stuff that wouldn't be out of place in a jazz or like a world music set. There's definitely stuff that I would like. There were sounds that were coming straight out of a PBS evening sit down with the greater Flecktones or something. But this was not at all what I was expecting. And when I think of prog rock, I think of a guy who's like having to be lowered by crane into his drum kit, and a guitarist that has 18 strings, and none of them are tuned correctly to my standard. But yeah, this definitely had some stuff that threw me for a loop.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer to your question, Deej, yes, I can tell the difference.
All right.
Yes.
Sweet.
Yes. Drew, what would be the themes elements that caught your attention?
One, yeah, the differences are vast between the three. But I alluded to me saying something on Twitter, but last night as I was thinking about it and I was finishing up my notes before I went to bed, I put out the spoiler alert. DJM has sort of pushed me into two things recently that I've absolutely adored. The first one being Mr. Robot, and the second one being this band.
Little Caesars. Yeah.
Little Caesars Pizza.
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 Hot and ready.
Togas, a spear. When you bounce it, pizzas come off and then back on
and
perfectly.
back on.
Because physics.
Hot and ready.
Pizza.
And it's hot and ready too.
Yeah.
I
Gets
think
it coming.
they might be
Look, guys, we gotta find a way to pay Miguel Cabrera's salary somehow. Okay,
Yeah.
just give me a break.
I have leftover Little Caesars by me right now because I haven't eaten.
Yes.
He's got a prop, everybody.
Props.
I'm the carrot top of the
Yes,
podcast.
you are the carrot.
I was gonna say you're gonna pull out a mallet, but we can go carrot top.
I hate. Okay. But blown away. Just absolutely loved it because there's a lot to this band. There's a lot of good depth to it. The guitar work was absolutely great. I think there was a complexity to it that kept everything fun and moving. There were great riffs in between. Like, you had a lot of spots where the guitar would lead into something that would then cause like a horn line to change, and they would like piggyback off almost like a game of leapfrog musically, which was awesome. You had these time signature changes and rhythm changes that just flowed really, really well together. They did that jazz fusion thing of like, all of a sudden there's going to be like maybe like anywhere from 4 to 10 bars of just like going into like a weird ass time signature for no apparent reason, and then like dropping right back into the time signature you were in before, just because it feels cool. And I think that was kind of cool. The drumming on here was really, really tight and really, really great. Top to bottom. Like, it's just, this is a band where I'm actually like trying to poke and prod my drummer friend to listen to, because I think like he'd actually very much enjoy it. He
Now,
didn't.
Patrick, you being a drummer, I'd really like to hear your thoughts on what Drew just said.
The drums on this record were very good, but not showy, which isn't a bad thing. Prog rock
Good
sometimes
fundamentals. It's the WNBA.
it's more than like just holding down the fort kind of
It's
stuff.
good work rate.
It was
Stick the long ball, but base hit.
Yeah.
But it's got a good grasp of ring psychology, is what you're
Yes,
saying.
yes.
More or less all of these
handles.
sports and sports entertainment thing. No, the drums on this record are great if within the context of the genre unremarkable. They're
Yeah.
very good. At no point am I like the drummer in this band is not good. No, he's very good, but he doesn't. When you're coming from
What you're saying is that he doesn't.
he is not. No,
He's
he
not
doesn't
over-
overdo it. Like he is not, as we've mentioned, bands we talked about before. This is not Neil Peart doing incredible flourishes constantly. This is not Mike Portnoy playing the fastest, craziest, heaviest fills. This is a guy playing drums exceptionally well and making really, really good choices, I think would be the way to put it.
Yeah.
There's no whatever the drum equivalent of wanking is.
And so
Very
what you would
good.
say is that Odin Alvarez
services
has
the
good
song.
drum vision and percussion IQ.
Yeah, yes. Good drum vision
Exactly.
and percussion IQ.
Intangibles.
Intangible.
Intangibles.
But he still manages to play at a high level.
Yes, exactly.
It's very high level.
Yes.
It's just not
damn it.
he. And
But it's not necessarily elite. It's not showy.
I love
what this is a Dream Theater is a collection of insane musicians who happen to play in a band together.
So
This
so
is a
you're-
fucking band who
Yeah.
plays as a unit supporting each other. This is team ball here.
So you're telling me Odin Alvarez, the drummer of this band, is more Kawhi Leonard and less Vince Carter? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
See, this is a cohesive unit. They
Yes.
play team.
They
It's
play
not,
team band.
they're not a band of superstars. Is what you're saying.
Exactly.
They're
No.
a cohesive
Right.
unit.
No, this isn't
yes.
two guys and some supporting cast. This is
Yes,
a
yes.
solid starting lineup here.
This
Top-
week on bad sports metaphor breakers.
Yes. But yeah, that being said, it was still Drew's turn. So, as you were saying,
Hey, I was willing to derail myself so I could make a Kawhi Leonard versus Vince Carter
Exactly.
reference. So I think it's okay.
yes.
But on top of that, on top of the normal things you would get, the horns are just so much fun. There was a good bit of saxophone, a good bit of trumpet in all of this, and all of those bits were great. It just, I'm a guy that likes the horns. I think
And
I've-
Drew, being a fan of Thank You Scientist, knowing what they are and what they were, knowing your appreciation of brass instruments, I was like, Drew, I got you, fam. I got you. I got you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's more. Like, the cool thing about this, these guys in general in this album, is that the instrumentation is so varied. You get the guitar player will break out a sitar. You got like the credits in this are things like the sitar and the theremin and like electric violin and flugelhorn. Like, man.
Got to get your Chuck Mangione on.
Hey,
It's
what are
just
you going to
absolutely
play? A
fantastic,
French horn? No, you grab that flugelhorn
Grab a
or a
flugelhorn.
mellophone or a.
Grab that
and that-
flugel by the horn and
Whoa, Petey. Keep it clean, Petey. Watch out.
It's a
We're
family
going
affair. here.
blue on the podcast. But yeah, it's
Or
just
tack.
an album that had, in my opinion, a lot going for it as far as like depth of album goes and depth of musicianship goes. And that being mixed with like, again, the jazz, the heavy jazz fusion influence on a very prog rocky band was very, very much appreciated by a guy that can I might be able to get down with some fusion every now and again. So
Horns. A guy that can get horny once in a while.
it can
Ice
happen.
Bear doesn't know what that means.
Yeah. But yeah, that being said, Deej, let's talk about some key tracks.
Right. I would say, just going in chronological order, my favorite track right now is the third track, or technically the second song, is Caverns. I really enjoy this song with its the verse and its guitar instrumentation, and also the chorus of the song with its really, really heavy riff behind the vocals. I really enjoy just how both of those things contrast. Automatic Blue, or Blue Automatic, is, I guess, sort of the single of sorts that is coming off of this album. It's a really fun track, I think.
The hot banger.
It is.
Hot summer jam.
And I think everyone out there can get a kick out of the song, the instrumental, Rube Goldberg Variations, just on the title alone.
Yes. You got to dig on some Rube Goldberg machine in song form. That's got to be fun. Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
So I'm gonna pick on one in the middle that's kind of an odd man out, but in the best way possible. Mr. Invisible, which is a jazz fusion song. I don't want to call it
Yes.
prog rock. It's a
Yes, it
jazz
is.
fusion song. And,
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
and
it's-
once in a
it's-
while, I really like this style of fusion jazz. Usually, prog rock buries its jazz influence in complicated time signatures. This just is like, we're just gonna put on our jazz shirts and make the studio feel like a smoky club, and we're gonna play a fusion song, and it's really cool. It's just I don't know why it's such an odd man out on this record, but because of that, it was fun. DJM mentioned it. Caverns is really fun. It's probably the most of a prog metal song on the record. It has some meedly me guitar solo stuff, which I do like sometimes, because I'm a dork. And Psychopomp near the end, because it's this weird, delightful, like, Middle Eastern vibe in the intro that kind of comes in and out, and it really shows off the way they use the horns. So the horns are almost... So in ska music, which is where we normally hear horns on this show, the horns are a sort of... They don't play the melody. They play like this backing kind of thing that supports it. In this, the horns are basically treated like, we're just going to have 2, 3, 4, 5 more guitar players in the band. And they're going to play stuff that sounds like a guitar lick or continues off of a guitar lick on whatever their sax, trumpet, and to some extent the violin too. And this had a ton of it. And it was just a crazy song. And I like that we're moving into an era where you're getting little touches of Middle Eastern music in prog rock. Because I think it's a relatively recent development. I don't feel like it's been around forever. And it's just cool. It's different. And I liked it.
Yeah. Oh, damn it. All right, Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, for the sake of, not going into the ridiculous, I'm going to talk about every song. Let's go with the Rube Goldberg variations. The trumpet guitar work when they were playing together was really good. The reverb sax and the bass going to town at the same time was pretty great. It's a fun jam track, and the musicianship is as advertised. And Psychopomp, that'll be the other song that really it caught me every time I listened through, because like around the 5.5 minute mark, there's like some really, really great wah guitar. And that catches my ear every time that you have like these technical musicians that are using a giant tone pot controlled with your foot, and it's still an effective, it's a tool that's still used. And
not a
worked
crutch
great.
like Kirk Hammett.
It was pretty awesome that like
Did you just
three
throw
$3
shade on
worth of
Kirk
stuff
Hammett?
still worked. But yeah, the guitar harmonies were cool. Technical skill is really to be expected with this genre. There's not a whole lot of simplistic music of this style. It comes with it, but technical execution gets a tip of the hat every time. But those, if you wanted to listen to the two hot bangers that got my attention, those would be they.
Drew.
Sorry, I was going to say, is the third hot banger Kesha's TikTok? I don't understand.
You know, we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
Have another jazz shirt.
Yes.
I'm going to bring on
pants.
a Lady Gaga album next time I'm on.
We've already had one.
Hey,
Can't bring our
somebody else had that idea. I wonder who that was.
Pop once. You can't bring on that one.
Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
So I'm gonna skip the first track because it's not as much music as it is like one of those intro tracks. And go with the one I'm not gonna pronounce correctly, the Somnambulist. I don't even know if that's a real word, but it's an awesome song. It begins the album really, really big, like really just strong in my opinion. You sort of blast with a great mix of what you're going to get from the drums and the horns, really, really off. Then you get the guitar riffs leading into and out of like thematic elements, which is something you are going to get a lot with this record as well, which I think was really, really good. Like I said, when you hit me with music right off, let me know what your band's about. Oh, it is a word.
Somnambulist.
I was close-ish.
I don't know.
So, a wolf in sheep clothing, I'm going to go into, because I'm a sucker for a song that starts sort of somber and then gets like kind of crazy towards the end. And right in the middle, it starts getting really manic.
Somnambulist.
Sort of and it just sort of quickens the pace. You guys are making me going all over the place now with my mind.
Sorry.
Kind of like this album.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
But it's sort of like a song that can lull you into a sense of security in the middle, and then 3-4 minutes in just absolutely send you for a loop. With that, I think is kind of cool. And then we've all talked about it. We all geeked over it. And Rube Goldberg variations. It's just phenomenal work from every musician here. The drums especially so, in my opinion. It's just really good. Like we said before, he's got the intangibles. He's got those fundamentals. And I've said it before, and I'll say it every time it comes up, and it makes itself obvious to me. If a band can bend genres, and a band can skip into genres, and sort of make themselves sound like almost a different band at points by just skipping around like that, it proves to me that they have a good handle on on their instruments, right?
Yeah.
They got that
Solid
kind of
fundamentals. Solid
Right.
fundamental play.
and this song shows it. It is an instrumental that skips around in genres a lot, and I think was better for it.
Yeah, pretty fantastic. Yeah, let's
Petey.
bring it back around the horn.
Petey,
Yes.
you've barely said anything.
You
Well-
caught him in his shtick.
Hey. I will say something in a moment.
You used to talk on Fanny Pack.
I take point. I facilitate.
But every once in a while, the point guard can have himself a night where he scores 22. It's okay. It's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd reiterate a lot of the same things, like the such fantastic tracks. As far since we're talking about the tracks, like the Rube Goldberg variations, like it's just like where all the crazy places it goes is just fantastic, and I'd just basically be repeating a lot of things the other guys say, where yeah.
Now you're repeating things that you were repeating.
Yes, exactly. But let's bring it back around the horn, and I'll sum up my thoughts. Kind of in between that. Patrick, what would be your conclusive thoughts on this album?
This is one of the best things I've heard in a minute. It's really good. it fills a void I didn't know I had musically. Like I didn't know I needed new prog rock, but now I have it, and I'm like, oh, thank you. So I will continue to listen to this probably for a while until I really wrap my head around it. It's really good. Go listen to it.
Brett, what would be your conclusive thoughts on this album?
This is a technical powerhouse of a band, and it's something that I enjoyed quite a bit. That being said, I doubt my mother would have the same reaction as I do. But you can still be my friend and not get this album. There's some stuff going on here. This is advanced placement music. It doesn't mean it's better music. Your mileage will vary. There's a lot going on here. This is not an I am very smart kind of thing, but like there's some stuff going on in this album that could sound a little tiresome to people. Like, you got songs that take up a lot of time. There's an investment in getting into this album, and if you get into the first couple tracks and you're not feeling it, you might just not feel this album. But if you dig it, keep going. It may be your hot new banger. Yes. That you play at all the touch tunes jukeboxes at country music bars.
Yeah.
Just to fuck people.
It's just to fuck people. Drew, what would be your conclusive thoughts?
Calling this shit a banger, and like all I can think of is Kesha and Nicki Minaj, and I hate everything. But this album was something that Deej was right. He brought it in sort of thinking that I would very much dig it, and
I got you, Drew. I got you.
I very much dig it. This album in general was something that was really, really cool.
And please, Drew, go back and listen to their second album. Technically,
I definitely plan on it.
Yeah.
Maps of Non-Existent Places. It's a wonderful album.
Yeah.
And it's something that, like Brett said, like Swagger said, this is not for everybody. If you're the type of person that doesn't, here's my litmus test all the time. If you're the type of person that doesn't understand why people would spend outrageous, like 3-4 digits on things like speakers and headphones and microphones and fill their rooms with those, maybe this isn't the album for you. But if you understand like that sort of side of like sitting down with a good set of speakers or a good set of headphones and just letting yourself hear what's going on in a track and hear what's going on in an album, and that's the type of stuff that you dig on, then this is definitely worth a shot, because I found myself listening to this and just really having a great time with it.
Yeah, this is just a really nice, really quality album. There's a lot to sink your teeth into and kind of chow down on musically, and it has personality too, and it has a lot of fun things going on there, which is something I really like. And it has a crying dog somewhere. Blake, what do you think of Thank You Scientist? I think he likes it.
He's blown away, speechless.
He's speechless. Okay. She's trying to give him attention. But yeah, it's just a pretty phenomenal record. It's just it's something that you can get your head in there and like just go into another headspace with it, and it's fantastic. Plus, it's just fun too. It has some fun moments too. At least for me. Just that's the vibe that I like to dig on. But yeah, Deej, what would be your conclusive thoughts on the album?
One thing that was mentioned by you guys was that Thank You Scientist is really good and really adept at flipping and incorporating and bending their sound to various genres. I'm kind of at the point with my own personal taste musically where I kind of crave that with anything that I'm really going to dive into. If you're not doing something that is a little bit removed from the norms of your genre, if you're not doing something that is a little bit removed from your tropes, you're probably going to lose me very quickly, which makes a lot of sense that my favorite genre is a genre that incorporates a lot of different things. And I really enjoy what Thank You Scientist does. Their first album was really enjoyable for me. Their second album was as enjoyable. And I just love that these guys are unapologetically all over the place, and they're really, really concise about it too. They are concise while crazy.
Word.
Yeah. Yeah, and that about sums it up for our thoughts on Thank You Scientists. Now we get into the main event of the evening. We get to our haiku reviews, where we sum it up all in poetic form for funsies.
No, for seriousness.
For seriousness. Because, the true science of it all. I'll get same initiative. Patrick, what is your haiku?
New progressive rock, best I've heard in a long time. This is excellent.
Yeah. Brett, what is your haiku?
Call it progressive. Not the one with flow ads. I kind of dug it.
Yeah. I'll throw mine in the middle. Prog rock meets some jazz. Played with personality. A pretty cool ride. Drew, what is your haiku?
I'm so glad nobody had it. I get to look original. Mixing stuff I dig to create something I love. Thank you, scientist.
Nice. And last but not least, DJM, what is your haiku?
Stranger Heads Prevail. These guys can do it all, man. Genre fluid fun.
Yes. I identify as genre fluid as well. Personally. Those are our thoughts on Thank You Scientists. You can of course find it on our Spotify playlist. Playing Record Breakers the home game with us. Deej, what do you got going on in the world of the internet?
Well, right now you can probably see me on Twitter at Just Called Me DJM. And along with that, in iTunes and Stitcher Radio and all those other places where podcasts can be aggregated, there's this little thing called Delta Juliet Mike Media, where I do a couple of podcasts of my own, including the anime podcast of some sort. It's in season. Two nerdy black guys with friend of this show, King Cass, Brandon Cooper. And
Poet laureate.
Our poet laureate, yes. Don't give him short shrift.
Now, let's see, what else? I might have a wrestling thing coming up soon with Lucha Underground, and I don't know, I might have something else. I'm on Twitter at Just Called Me DJM. And subscribe and go to deltajulietmike.com.
Yes.
Pocket sand!
Yeah.
No, we had this discussion earlier. No.
Even Blake is fed up with that. Yes. Speaking of album music and things that are going on, next week's album is also going to be on that Spotify playlist that I mentioned earlier. Next week's album is my album. It's going to be Rancid's "And Out Come the Wolves." It's going to be an interesting discussion.
I can't wait to talk about that album with you, Petey.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting discussion.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what everybody thinks about that album.
Yeah. I mean, oddly enough, Blake won't be here next week for some reason, but he will be the next week. Weird thing.
Time is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Time is genre fluid.
Yes.
Time keeps on slipping
Into
the future.
And somehow we went into the future and then back to the past.
Yes.
Somehow Drew will be wearing the same clothes, though.
Yes. Yes.
No, he'll have his Road Cavs jersey.
Yes. But yes.
I gotta wait for JR to sign because I'm gonna get.
Although, Drew, I want to ask: have you taken that jersey off since the Cavs won the title?
He took it off earlier in the pre-show. I was white balancing.
He's trying to do the bit.
His flesh.
Don't kill the bit.
Sorry.
That's two things with continuity you just ruined.
The problem is, I think I'm supposed to burn this one because like that's the cool thing now with jerseys is to burn them when the teammate leaves. So I feel like I have to, but like,
don't let nobody tell you what to do.
Yeah.
I might, if I go to a Bucks game, I might wear it just to be that guy.
Yeah. But that being said, you can, of course, find us all over the internet. Patrick is at the Swagger. Brett is at Hibbity Bibbert, HIBBITY, Drew is at XJuciferX. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Do all the things, share, like, subscribe. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
It's going down.
Blake.
I'm yelling.
Stranger Heads Prevail is what it's called.
I said toodaloo.